Hey John, hope Europe's treating you well. So I had too many technical difficulties with Screener, so I'll just email this video to you from my phone. I am using deconstructive criticism and African American criticism in my analysis of Benito Serrano. So I start out by focusing on the binary relationship of Babo and Don Benito as one of master and slave. I will examine the hierarchical and seemingly traditional relationship between the two characters and their interactions with one another. I'm going to look at the major ideologies of racism and slavery in the text and how they affect the behavior of both characters. That of Babo as the docile and helpful slave, and Don Benito as the captain of the ship and master of Babo. Using the perspectives of Eurocentrism, racialism, and institutionalized racism, I can better examine how and why Babo and Don Benito are portrayed as unequal opposites in the text. I will then examine the true relationship between the two men, that of Don Benito as a slave and Babo as a hidden master. This will contrast with the previous section in our preconceived notions of who generally conforms to the roles of master and slave in the 19th century. I will show that their relationship is much more profound than first appears, and how Babo is able to passively assault the Eurocentric idea of who is designated as master and slave in the text, and turn it completely around to his advantage. Using Derrida's idea of the ambiguity of language, I will emphasize how Babo displays the unstableness of the words master and slave. He is a slave, yet he is the secret master of the ship and is able to reverse the social title of master from Don Benito to himself. As you said in class, the only way he is the master of Don Benito is by acting as a typical slave while appearing to still conform to the Eurocentric ideologies of slavery and racism. Alright, so let's go into some of my key passages. Here's one. This is great. It shows the men in binary opposition to each other, according to their clothes. The scene was heightened by the contrast in dress, noting their relative positions. The Spaniard wore a loose chilly jacket of dark velvet, white small clothes and stockings, with silver buckles at the knee and instep, a high-crowned sombrero of fine grass, a slender sword, silver mounted, hung from a knot in his sash, the last being an almost invariable adjunct, more for utility than ornament, of a South American gentleman's dress to this hour. And the next one is Babo's outfit. The servant wore nothing but wide trousers, apparently from their coarseness and patches made of some sort of old topsail. They were clean and confined at the waist by a bit of unstranded rope, which, with its composed, deprecatory air at times, made him look something like a begging friar of St. Francis. Right, then the next quote, or passage, it's quite poignant. It's the shaving scene. Here an involuntary expression came over the Spaniard, similar to that just before on the deck, and whether it was the start he gave, or a sudden gawky roll of the hull in the calm, or a momentary unsteadiness of the surgeon's hand. However, it was. Just then the razor drew blood, spots of which stained a creamy lather under his throat. Immediately the black barber drew back his steel, and remaining in his professional attitude, backed to Captain Delano and faced the Don Benito, held up the trickling razor, saying with a sort of half-humorous sorrow, "See, master, you shook so. Here's Babo's first blood." So this is quite poignant because when we first read it, as we see Babo as a traditional slave, shaving his master, but then later when we read it again, realizing that Babo is the real master, we see how he is very passive-aggressive here, threatening Don Benito with a razor and telling him passively not to let anything slip to Captain Delano. And finally here we see how the roles are completely reversed. The instant that was done, Don Benito sprang over the bulwarks, falling at the feet of Captain Delano, at the same time calling towards his ship, but in tone so frenzied that none in the boat could understand him. So essentially Don Benito has turned into a slave. He's so desperate that, like many African Americans, he's jumped over the side trying to escape. So then for sources, I have this first one from Brock University. It's a source on African American criticism right here. The next one I have is it's focused on slave and master morality by Friedrich Nietzsche. I'm not saying that correctly at all. And it's excerpts from Beyond Good and Evil. And then finally I have a very nice essay on Derrida and deconstruction and literary interpretation. Unfortunately, I have no idea who wrote this, as it is in a language that I cannot understand at all. But otherwise, that's about it. Thanks.